welcome you to the Myles High Podcast. Man, it's so good to be here. So good to start this again. For a lot of you, you may have known that I've started this podcast a few years ago. Just want to take a little time to address why I took a break. So I was recording this pod, and I was doing everything. It was just me. I was a one-man show. I was doing the recording, the editing, the posting, and doing all of that, along with all of my other responsibilities. And it just became a lot, especially in the editing process. And it just kind of burned me out, along with, like I said, everything else that I was doing. So I took a break. And coming into this year, in this new year, 2023, I started to list out a lot of the goals that I wanted to accomplish for this year. And re-engaging with my podcast was one of those goals. So what I did was I engaged with a production team, got with the team, we sat, I discussed my vision for the pod. They bought into it, and here we are. So it's good to be back. It's good to be doing the pod again, and I just want to welcome you to the Myles High Pod. So here at the Myles High Pod, as those of you who've heard me, but if you're here for the first time, my goal is to entertain, educate, and elevate you miles high above your fears, your doubts, and any limitations that you think may exist. We go through a lot in life, and we encounter these developments, these changes in our lives, right? We were met with success, we were met with some failures, and I just want to be a beacon of light, a beacon of hope, and a sounding board for a lot of people to address a lot of these successes and the failures that we experience in life. I want to give you my experiences. I want to give you my observations. I want to give you the lessons that I've learned. To start off this podcast, I want to just go back and just give a little bit of history of myself, a little bit of an introduction. So my name is Myles Munroe Jr. I am the son of the late Dr. Myles and Ruth Monroe. I was born and raised in Nassau, Bahamas. And the Bahamas is not in the United States, and the Bahamas is also not Jamaica. Okay? The Bahamas is a Caribbean country, not in the Caribbean Sea, ironically enough. We're about 30 minutes away, 30 minutes off the coast of South Florida, or Miami, as the Bahamians would say. But we're a small country, but we give a big impact in the world. You know, I think we're one of the top destinations for tourism, especially U.S. tourists and European tourists. I'm proud to say that, as much as my friends and some of my family may think I don't love the country, I actually do love the Bahamas. The Bahamas is a beautiful place. And I think because I'm able to travel so much, I'm able to appreciate the Bahamas every time I get back to it. But I was born and raised here. Again, born and raised the son of Dr. Myles and Ruth Monroe. If you don't know who Myles and Ruth Monroe is, my dad was a super popular, super celebrated local pastor here in the U.S., but he was a motivational speaker, a consultant, but also celebrated around the world. My dad grew to some popularity in his ministry. He was, like I said, a local pastor, but he was also a consultant, a motivational speaker. He did a lot of things. He authored books. He traveled the world doing what he loved to do, and that was helping people. And he gained some notoriety with that, right? So as a young lad, so I like to call myself, as a young lad, I found it difficult being Myles Monroe's son. It was actually something that I really didn't like. It was a lot of expectations, a lot of, I call it pressure that was placed on me growing up being his kid. And I think a lot of people just expected me to, talk a certain way, dress a certain way, act a certain way. And because I am so against the grain, I kind of pushed back on that a lot. And I think, as most, young kids and teenagers do, we try to go, we want to do our own thing, right? We see our own way in life, and we don't want to stick to the status quo for the most part. And I think for me, it was difficult with those expectations that were placed on me. So it caused me to rebel a lot. I didn't like going out or being out with my dad, being seen with him because of those expectations. I didn't like uh, people referring to me as Myles Monroe. It was difficult to hear because, once someone says it, there's always someone that's going to turn around and look and be like, oh, look, there's Myles over there, Myles Monroe's son. There he is. So it was something that it took a lot of getting used to for me. And I think going into my teenage years, I started to like super rebel, and just, I think it strained the relationship that I had with my dad. And not because of him. I think it was just my own selfish reasons, and just me wanting to do my own thing, and kind of stay out of the shadow of Myles Monroe and try to figure out who Charo was. So, graduated high school. My dad gave me an opportunity. I said, I'm going to call it. He gave me an opportunity to go to Oral Roberts University, which is his alma mater. I actually think he wanted me to go to ORU because of the structure that ORU had, right? So ORU is this university, or was this university, that had dress code, it had curfew, it had a lot of rules that students could and couldn't do on campus. So it wasn't like your average college or university that most teenagers or young adults would attend, right? And for me, I was hoping for the college experience where, you get to party a little bit, you get some co-ed dorms, you got all these things that the expectation of college is, and ORU is the exact opposite, right? But in hindsight, I think it was a good thing for me. I think I needed that structure. I think I needed that discipline. And obviously my dad felt the same. So, went to ORU, did my bachelor's in international business with a minor in Spanish, graduated from ORU, moved back home for a year and actually worked. I wanted to get a little bit of work experience. So I worked at a local investment bank here. Had a conversation with my dad, and he was like, I think you should go off and do your master's. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm game. I'll do it. So I went off to FDU, Fairleigh Dickinson University in New Jersey. Did my master's in entrepreneurial studies. And that was, I think, a very unique decision for me. I remember as a young boy growing up, I was very intrigued about the topic of business. Like, I saw myself being business oriented, business minded, interested in like a lot of things that were business related. And I remember like when my family and I would travel, or when we would go around town in the Bahamas, I would see all these companies with like these names on them, right? So in the Bahamas, we have like Kelly's, we have like Super Value, all of these large business establishments. For those of you in the US, you could relate to companies like Walmart, like Target, like Dillard's, like all of these large companies that have been around for some time. And when I was young, initially I thought, someone started a business and just thought of a name and, named the business that name. But as I grew older, I started to realize that these were actually family names. And as I started to gain a better understanding of the type of family businesses that were created and how long they were created, I started to dream about doing that one day, and creating a business with my family name and making it a brand that could be recognized globally, right? So went to do my master's with a focus in entrepreneurial studies. And after I did my master's, I was looking for a job. I had no intentions of moving back to the Bahamas. My goal was to find a lady, find a job, and start a family. Those were the goals. I just wanted to land a good job, find a nice biddy. We call them biddies in the Bahamas, but a nice, beautiful female, right? Start a beautiful family and enjoy my life somewhere in the U.S. But as things panned out, that didn't happen. Wasn't able to land a job. That was around the time when the job market kind of was in turmoil. My dad was even assisting me in trying to find a job. And I was in a job hunt for about, I want to say 8 or 9 months. And then one day my dad called me and he was like, we've been trying to get you a job for quite some time. What do you think about, coming home and working with the family business? And man, the minute he said that, like my mind went directly back to me as a young boy, seeing those businesses with the family names on them. And I was like, yo, this is the opportunity. Like, this is a step in that direction to the dream that I had in bringing that to fruition. So I didn't hesitate in making the decision. As much as I initially didn't want to move back to the Bahamas, I did see at that point the importance or the advantage in moving home to work with my dad, to establish that foundation and build off our family name, and build the businesses and stuff that my dad had started. Become a part of that and managing it and growing it. So moved back home. Worked with my dad for about 5 years. It started off a little shaky. I think both he and I are, especially me, I'm strong-willed, right, and a bit hard-headed at times. So we kind of butt heads a lot. But I think eventually I started to realize that I needed to take a step back. And my dad had a conversation with me, and he was just like, yo, you just need to chill and relax and observe. Like, be more observant than boisterous, right? And just listen more and talk less. And I think that advice helped me in the process of transitioning, like coming from school, coming back to the Bahamas to work with my dad and getting acclimated to working with him, working in the business. And then, since that point, I decided that, I wanted him to mentor me. And he became a true life mentor to me. My dad was my father, obviously, my entire life. But it wasn't until that point in my life that he truly became a mentor, taught me everything that I am able to share with you guys throughout this process of this pod. Observed him in different settings, wearing different hats, the way that he maneuvered in different spaces and the success that he had with those movements. It intrigued me, and I was just excited to be a fly on the wall in a lot of those rooms, and just to be able to observe, how he was able to just move in these different spaces, in these different circles. So, for me, being able to work with my dad, I think, and being able to move home and then ask my dad to become my mentor, I think those were the two biggest decisions I've made in my entire life. Because, obviously at the time I didn't know what was happening, but I was being prepared for 2014. And for those of you that don't know, in November 2014, my parents passed, and it was unexpected, something that I had never really thought of. And it took me for a loop, right? And it kind of destroyed my whole mindset of who I was and what I was supposed to be doing. And it was a tough time for me. But I think the process of the mentorship that I experienced with my dad, along with him teaching me and teaching others, these different life principles, I think all of that assisted me in getting to the point that I am today. And I'm just happy I'm able to share that with you. And that brings me to what I wanted to discuss today, right? So in me moving home, deciding to work with my dad, I discovered a lot about myself and why I was placed on this earth. And, life is all about discovery, right? And really understanding who we are and why we're here. There are 5 important questions that everyone needs to ask themselves and everyone needs to answer. Those questions are, who am I? Where am I from? Where am I going? What can I do? And why am I here? The 5 most important questions you can ever answer, that you can ever ask yourself and that you can ever answer. The most important of those, in my opinion, is the why, right? The why for your life. What's the reason that I was placed on this earth? What's the reason that I'm living and breathing and going through life? I think that we sometimes don't understand how important it is to try and discover our purpose from an early age. Not that it's the detriment of our lives, right? It's not something that is is detrimental if we don't. But I feel like it's something that we, if we're able to do as early as possible, it would benefit us, right? And in discovering our purpose, there are some things that we should keep in mind. I get the question a lot of, how do I discover my purpose, or what is it, or what can I do to understand or answer the question of why? Why am I here? What's my purpose? So purpose is the why is the most important thing. And I feel like as we go through life and we try to make this discovery, there are a couple of things that we need to be aware of, right? So in discovering purpose or identifying your purpose, there are key elements about ourselves that we need to pay attention to. And those are the things that we're good at, which involves our skills, our potential, and then the things that we're passionate about, which is our desires and the things that we like to do. I always say that the easiest thing, or the easiest way, or one of the easiest ways to discover your purpose is to really find the thread that connects, your likes and your passion, your skills and the things that you like to do. What's the thread that connects those, right? The common denominator for me was business. I'm a very business-oriented, business-minded person. Everything I do, everything I think about involves some type of business mindset. For you, it may be, you're an athlete, a great athlete. You may be a great speaker. You may be a great singer, a good musician. All of that, those skill sets involves the reason why you're here. And I think it'll be great for you to develop those skills, continue to work on them, better yourselves, go to classes, get certifications, gain some experience in the different fields of your skill sets. And then when it comes to displaying those gifts, do as much as you can to get your gifts out, right? So if it's singing, start singing in your local church or at your local school or in front of your friends even, right? I think your friends would be your biggest critique. They're going to be like, nah, bro, that's not for you. Or, maybe you should try a different skill set or whatever, right? They're going to be brutally honest at some point, hopefully. But keeping in mind that there's not only one thing that we were placed there to do, or there's not only one skill set that you may have, and just identifying all of those skill sets, and then finding the common denominator between the two, and then there may be those individuals who you found the thing that you're good at, your skill set, right, and you're successful in it, but it doesn't bring you, it doesn't please you. Like still feel like there's something missing. To those individuals, I want to say that you need to think more about not what you can take out of or use from or take from your skill sets, but how much you can plant into someone else. What is it that you can do to give yourself away? I think it's important that we try to leave a mark, leave our mark here. The world that we live in now gives us a lot of different platforms to do that. This podcast, for example, this is a way that I want to leave a mark. I want to give my experiences, give the lessons that I've learned, give some advice, and just give myself away. I don't want to die with all of these, the learning that I've experienced, the education that I've had, the information that I've been able to take in over these years. I want to leave some of that here, leave some of that with everyone, for my kids to watch, for their kids to watch. And I think that you guys should do the same. It's important that we continue to better ourselves. I don't think we should ever think that we know everything. Continue to learn, continue to develop, be aware of the stages that we are in our lives as we transition each year, and just be adamant about continuing to be a student. I think that's most important. So yeah, I want to talk to those individuals who, you've discovered your skill set, you're good at what you do, but you still feel like an emptiness to you. I think to fill that emptiness, you need to first fill someone else up. Like sacrifice yourself, give more of yourself. I think a lot of times we use our skill set to take away, right? We earn the money we want to earn, we get the house we want to get, we drive the cars we want to drive, and those are just tangible things, right? But I think we should be depositing things into the lives of other individuals. And I think the more we deposit, the more we get out of life. Ironic how that works, right? Where you're giving yourself away, but at the same time, you're filling yourself up. And I guarantee you it's going to click at some point, right? Doesn't matter how successful you are, the money is fleeting, right? The friends that come with it is fleeting. There has to be purpose to it. And I think once you discover that purpose, and you start depositing more into individuals than you take out of the world, you're going to be a much more rounded, a much more well-rounded, much more fulfilled person. And I've seen it happen, and I've experienced it for myself as well. And this is why I'm trying to use all these mediums and these platforms to deposit as much as I can into others. I don't want to take away from the world more than I should be giving to it. And that's one of the key principles that I try to remind myself of on a daily basis. So in discovering purpose, try to deposit more than you credit into yourself. And I think, that's where we get to talking about legacy. And that's a topic we're going to get to later on down in these episodes of this pod. And I'm super excited as we progress through all of these episodes. And I hope that you stick and stay with me as we go through this process. Okay, so we got to the point of the show now where I leave you with something to think about. I call this segment of the show my Milestones. And I feel like I have to explain the meaning of Milestones, right? Because I said this name to my production team, and everyone was like, I don't really get it. And I was like, guys, it's a play off my name. My name is Myles. A milestone is like a gem or something that you can leave it. They're slow. Hopefully you guys aren't. But I guess I wanted to explain that for everyone. So the milestone for today is a purpose life is less about self-satisfaction and more about self-sacrifice. And what that simply means is I want you to focus more on what you're sacrificing for in your life than what you're using to satisfy yourself. So we should always be more concerned about the sacrifices we're making or the deposits we're making than what we're taking out of life and how we're satisfying ourselves. I think as the more open we are to giving ourselves away, the more we're filled because of what we're depositing into others. Okay? All right, so we come to the end of this particular episode. Just remember that I'm going to be doing this on a weekly basis. You're going to get weekly pods from me. I'm going to give a lot of insight. Again, I'm here to entertain, educate, and elevate you miles high above your fears, your doubts, and any limits you think exist. Because they don't, and I hope to encourage you to believe that as much as you can. All right? Stay blessed.